Hello, and welcome back to another FPL video. Today I'm going to present to you the ultimate guide for Game Week 18. This is a brand new video idea on my channel that I decided to start doing. I've seen other people do it into some extent, but mine is a little bit different, combining several stuff, giving analysis, giving player replacements for the hot topics, analyzing the fixtures, and then in this instance I'm doing an updated wildcard because it's a popular Game Week 2 use your first wildcard. But yeah, if there is another hot topic, we're going to discuss it. Then basically we're going to see how this video is going to proceed going forward. But I think that for anyone that's here and want to see some information, regardless of what structure it runs, regardless of what the team is, just to have some insight and some info, everything combined in one place. So let's see how it goes. Step by step, Game Week 17 analysis, Saka replacements, Cunha replacements, Game Week 18 fixture analysis, and I'm going to do my updated wildcard. I'm 42k at the moment in the world. I'm advancing into the cup for the Global Cup. My team value is around 103 million. And if you like and subscribe and help me reach my goal of 2000 subscribers, it would mean the world to me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to reach it before the New Year's Eve, so let's see if that is possible. I believe everything is possible for my community, but let's test it. Now let's jump and see how Game Week 17 went. We're going to go into this section through all of the 10 games that happened in Game Week 17. I have written some analysis while watching the games. I've either watched extended highlights or the games live, so I basically watched 7 games and 3 extended highlights, so I have a pretty good understanding of the games. I'm going to not spend a lot of time for each section because for 10 games it's going to waste us a lot of time, so I'm going to go as quickly as possible. Aston Villa Manchester City was the first game of the weekend. Expected goals over to Aston Villa. Rodgers was amazing and he played from the left, which surprised me. Usually he plays behind the striker, but right now it was Tielemans at the number 10 position and he is really good there. Kamara and Onana making an amazing pivot, so I think Aston Villa utilizing Kamara, Onana, Tielemans, Rodgers, probably McGinn or Bailey, and up front someone is going to be forced to be reckoned. Duran scored again. I think now he's the main striker for Aston Villa, and if you want to risk it, he might be a good option. Here in this section I'm going to utilize and present to you the FPL options, so it's not only analysis for the games, but to pick some FPL options. For me, it's Martinez, Rodgers and Duran that are catching the eye right now. Cunha can be added into that list, but I prefer those 3. For Manchester City's perspective, they were clueless how to advance forward. The team just looks broken, and John Stones got out with an injury once again, and after that injury the team just looked way worse for wear. So let's monitor what's going to happen. 5 easy fixtures on the horizon for them, but they may be able to screw that once again. For me, the only 2 players that are worth mentioning here are Gvardio, who is like fixture proofed and team stupidity proof. He's doing well, he's doing amazingly. Okay, scoring some points, scoring some goals here and there, a clean sheet, I think is just brilliant. And Phil Foden, on the other hand, it's another player that I enjoy pretty much, as he just scored his first goal, and I think with the fixtures going forward he will improve massively. Next up we have Brentford versus Nottingham Forest. This was a low scoring game as expected, because no, not as expected, but Forest are good defensively and Brentford are conceding a lot of goals. But the numbers are saying the game should have had less than 2 goals. In hindsight, Forest defeated Brentford 2-0 and they were the better side. Brentford losing at home, it's not something that we're used to, but without scoring as they couldn't, this was expected. They're never going to keep a clean sheet in my mind. They just have a lot of issues defensively and they're conceding goals for fun, so I think they're still a team to target when picking forwards against them. The FPL options remain Wissa and Mbumo. Mbumo almost got an assist, but a brilliant sales from Ayer's shot at the end of the game just dropped him off that assist. Nottingham Forest, on the other hand, they've solidified their place into the top 4. They changed formation into a 3-4-3. They added another center back, but this would mean that Nico Williams and Eina are now wingbacks, especially Eina. For me, he has been the biggest surprise this season. He has scored another goal, and when he scores, he tends to keep a clean sheet, so those 15 pointers are flying left, right and center. Yes, if you own him for those 15 pointers is great, but apart from that, those are 30 points of his 70. So in 15 games, he got 40 points. So that's basically around 3 points, less than 3 points per game. So you either own him for those goals or you're not getting a lot for your money. But still, if you play him every week, you're going to get a lot of those points. Wood had a big chance missed. The keeper saved it, but it should have been converted. And sales has been just massive in goal, and probably the best keeper so far this season, I would say, without shadow of a doubt. FPL options, sales 4.7, brilliant goalkeeper choice. Aina 4.9. Now he's reaching that mid-price defender bracket where you compare him to Kukurea or to Delo or to Konate when he returns from injury. So yeah, now he is not considered that cheap, but let's see how he improves. A center back from Forest can be brought in, like Muriu or Milenkovic. It's up to you. They're both good. Milenkovic is just more dangerous up front. And Chris Wood at 6.6, I think he is a brilliant striker. Moving into next game, it's Ipswich versus Newcastle. Newcastle just controlled the whole game. Numbers are saying that Ipswich had a chance, but that didn't feel like happening. Yes, they missed 1 or 2 chances, but Newcastle were in complete control. Ipswich were going to be quick here. They're just in a bad form, bad performance, and they're making a lot of mistakes. I would be avoiding every player from that team, possibly a 4.0 defensive option. Burgess, Greaves, O'Shea, Dar O'Shea specifically is performing pretty well, but that's all about Ipswich. Moving to Newcastle, they exceeded their expected goals, but to be fair, they could have scored more. Murphy continued his hot form. I think he's doing amazingly well. He has those purple patches from time to time, and now he's into one. You are either buying him now and getting onto the late part of that patch, or I would be just avoiding. Isaac scores for fun, but not clinical enough though. He missed one-on-one once again. He missed one in the previous game against Leicester, and in some harder fixtures that may prove costly, but there is a space for improvement, so that's a good thing. Gordon was lively, a little bit wasteful, but still good. Bruno Guimaraes, man of the match in my opinion, really good. Like, he was everywhere onto the field, making great tackles, making great passes, just being everywhere. And Ho was advanced once again. The FPL options are Isaac, Gordon and Ho in my opinion. Bruno G, despite being the best player on the field, it's not that good for FPL options. Murphy, if you want to risk it at 4.9, he may be your 5th midfielder basically, and 8th attacker, similar price to Dibbling, funny enough. But yeah, I would be quite hesitant going to Murphy. Next up, we have West Ham versus Brighton. A pretty equal game into my mind. I watched highlights only of it as it didn't seem very interesting, but by the highlights, I seen that Fulkrug is back. And he is now the striker into their formation. Bowen now being at right mid / right wing, but moved to striker after Fulkrug was subbed. Kudus playing well, Paqueta playing well, so I think that they will improve step by step. And they were bad defensively once again, conceding chances, and from set pieces they do not look good. Even I am saying that, but Fabianski at 4.1 is still the cheapest keeper that is playing, so I would be highly considerate when deciding to go with a keeper, and Fabianski will be high on my list of targets. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is another player that I might consider when they change for the better, but still getting some assists, getting some attacking returns in the past fixtures. So at 4.6, he's a good starter in an okay team. But the best player here, without shadow of a doubt, is Bowen. Not on pens though, but the talisman of the team. Brighton, Pedro just missing again from the play. I was not happy how he performed, and I see the frustration in a lot of managers, and I'm completely understanding that. He is not in a great form, Brighton are not in a great form, and now they're facing Brentford. So let's see, is Brentford's weak defense going to showcase, or Brighton's ability to disappear from games going to appear? We're going to see. Mitoma just had a hard dip, and they're just bad defensively. They couldn't keep a clean sheet once again. For me, the only 2 FPL option is Verbruggen at 4.5. He's still one of the cheapest goalkeepers on the market that is playing, and it's okay to say. And Joao Pedro at 5.9, penalty taker. if they utilize a striker in front of him. Yeah, Ruter tried to be that this week, but I think Ruter and Pedro are pretty similar. And I want Welbeck or Ferguson in front of Pedro, and going to see how that is going to pay off. Next game on the horizon, it was Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. When I saw the numbers, it was a little bit surprising for me. I watched the game. Crystal Palace had their chances. Sar continued his hot form, and they scored 1.6 expected goals, which is a very high number against that Arsenal defense. The sad thing for that was that nothing showed for it. Conceded a lot of goals, 5 to be exact, and the only good positive for me, it was that Sar is in a great form. From FPL perspective though, you can go into their players. At Crystal Palace, fixtures are turning for the better. Henderson at 4.4 is a great option. Munoz at 4.7 being that right wing back, competing with probably Aina, a little bit cheaper. Robinson from Fulham. You can add 8 Nuri, so Munoz is into that bracket. Sar at 5.7, great player into a great form, properly replacing Eze at the moment. But even if Eze returns, I think Sar is going to be considered one of their men. And Mateta at 7.2, with Eze out, he's now on penalties. And I think that he will return into his best form. Arsenal, on the other hand, scored way more than it was expected. Saka's injury is the bad thing here. You're going to see later on in the video, we're discussing it, the extent of the injury, what that means, what is the plan there, and how I'm going to approach it. Jesus is finding form, but is he only a Palace merchant, as he has scored 5 goals in 2 games against Palace in 4 days, basically. But we're going to see still a lot of goals scored, even without Saka. But is that going to replicate in future weeks? We have to monitor and see it. Consider it a stupid goal, but without those numbers 1.6, they were lucky to concede only 1, and they're still a massive set piece threat. So teams with bad set piece defenses will be hurt by them. Gabriel and Timber, the best 2 options in defense at 6.3 and 5.7 in my opinion. Now with Gabriel back in the squad, Saliba is just non-existent. You have to rely on Saliba when Gabriel is injured. Honestly, Timber a little bit disappointing, but at 5.7, he's that key player to get into those clean sheets from Arsenal. Jesus now becomes probably an FPL option with Saka's injury at 6.8, and with the form that he's finding, he can be utilized on the right wing, he can be used as a striker. I'm a little bit worried that he's on 4 cards, but still, I think now he's an option. And Odegaard at 8.3 now becomes an option because he will take those set pieces that were left-footed from Saka, and then on he will take the penalties, as he is now the sole penalty taker into the team. So Odegaard, if Arsenal continue doing well into the league, probably is one of the better replacements for Saka, but we're going to follow that into the next section when discussing the Saka replacements. Moving next into the Everton-Chelsea game, honestly one of the most boring games of the season. Everton 1 goal expected, Chelsea quite similar. Everton are just great defensively, they fight with their heart and they defend with their heart, so I think they are a pretty amazing side defensive wise. Offensively, looked dangerous on the counter, but could not convert their chances. It looked a little bit iffy, a little bit questionable. Yeah, there was a goal line clearance by Toussaint, but still not clinical enough. The FPL options, in my opinion, are only Pickford at 4.9. He's a good keeper. The fixture run is still bad, but when it turns for the better, Pickford will be a popular pick. And Mikulenko at 4.3 is one of the cheapest routes to a solid defense, and especially when the fixtures are rescheduled with Liverpool, they are going to be having a double. Yes, they're facing Liverpool, which is not great, but still a double up is a double up. Chelsea, on the other hand, could not find a way to score against that lower block. So yeah, the weather was bad, but Chelsea were not great either. Jackson missed a lot of chances. Palmer was not good. Neto, Madueke, and Suivan, I don't think that they played that well. The FPL options here from this team are quite a lot though. Sanchez in goal at 4.8. Rivaling Sales, rivaling Pickford at around the same price range, rivaling Martinez from Aston Villa. So yeah, he is not a bad shout out with a great fixture run coming. Cucurella at 5.2, I think now he's into a strong contention because he plays amazingly. He just scored his first goal, and when he's back into contention to be starting, he is going to be an amazing option. Palmer, I don't think I need to give any explanation about him. And so at 5.1, a cheap option to go into the Chelsea midfield. you can capitalize on that, and Jackson at 8.3, one of the better strikers of the Prem so far. But yeah, I think that a lot of players from Chelsea, one of the best teams to target from FPL perspective, from my opinion. Next up, looking at the Fulham Southampton game, another boring game this week, another 0-0 draw. Fulham couldn't capitalize on the great performances versus Arsenal and Liverpool. Smith Rowe and Andreas not in the team, and creativity dropped massively. Mooney started over Rowe but didn't make quite an impression, so I don't know what's going to happen next. Still had control but couldn't convert their chances, and Birch got an injury, which is quite bad for their defensive performance in my opinion, as he was one of the pivots in midfield and he was doing amazingly well. For me, the FPL options from their team are Castan and Robinson, the two fullbacks, with Tete being injured. Castan at 4.2 is going to keep starting, and he got the same returns as Robinson, who is 0.7 now more expensive. Yes, Robinson is way more higher on the expected goals and expected bonus points, but at this game, which is considered one of the easiest for Fulham this season, they got the same returns. Iwobi at 5.8, he's rivaling Sar, but I just won't go there. But if you're looking for a Fulham midfielder, I think Iwobi is your guy. Southampton perspective, managed to keep a clean sheet, which was a high surprise. They just appointed a new manager, but he wasn't part of the dugout this week. Probably not on the 26th, but the week after that, around New Year's Eve, we're going to see some improvements there. Nothing up front, sadly, and still 5 at the back, so we haven't seen a change there. For me, the only FPL option is Diblink, and he's not that even high, but at 4.5, the market is pretty limited, so I would say that Diblink fits that criteria. Next game is Leicester versus Wolves. Leicester could have scored, should have scored, but they're just awful at defending. Personal mistakes caused them the first and the second goal, into my opinion, and the third one could have been avoided as well. Had chances to score though, but couldn't do it. Vardy missed at 0-0 and at 0-2, and then Vardy, I think I got like 6 or 7 shots, which is a pretty high number. So I would be quite contemplating of considering Vardy when their fixtures turn for the better. Now they face Liverpool and City, but after that you may be looking at Vardy as an option. Winks is another 4.5 option because, as mentioned, the market is pretty limited there. From Wolves' perspective, they kept the formation with the wing backs, even with the new manager. Great diagonal balls, fullbacks will benefit a lot. And still shaky defensively, though, lucky not to concede. Honestly, Vardy could have scored 3 goals. Honestly, capitalizing on the last note that I made, 8 Nuri probably is going to become a great option once again if he is utilized as a left wing back. I've seen some rumors that he is used as the left winger, so if he's an out of position wing back when the fixtures turn for the better and they're used to the new manager's tactics, we may fall into the trap of 8 Nuri once again, but it might be better this time. Cunha by far the best player. Ban will be awful for Wolves, but yeah, when he does something that bad, he needs to be penalized, and we're still waiting for news. But just to be prepared, I've prepared a nice selection of forwards that you can go for different strategies, so we're going to see them in a second. But now let's go and complete the final 2 games of the weekend. Next game was Manchester United versus Bournemouth. They played at the same time and the result was the same, 3-0 to the visitors. Manchester United set piece defending is just non-existent. They're conceding from set piece every game. In the Carabao, directly from a corner kick now. From a free kick, just need to improve there. They missed several chances from Mate and Bruno. As you can see, the expected goals was pretty high, but they just couldn't convert. Mawasa start, but it was not very promising. I think that he will not be a Manchester United player for a very long. And Bruno moved to midfield after sub, so when Ugarte went out, Bruno moved into the pivot. So I don't know what to think about Bruno. Penalties are the only things that are saving him from being a bad option, but as an FPL option, a penalty taker from such a massive club is always going to be a great FPL option, and Amat at 5.3 for me is probably the best cheap player in midfield that you can select. Bournemouth, on the other hand, top 5 side right now, under 2 goals expected, 3 scored. Solid keeper performance by Kepa kept Manchester United from scoring. He made second half great save against Højlund, which kept the game live. Kept the game quiet. Nice on the counter and nice on the build-up, so they have a lot of ways to score. Here I've listed a lot of players that are good options, especially when their fixture on turn for the better. Kepa in goal 4.5, great. Kerkez, Højsen, great defensive options. Kerkez on the left back position, Højsen on the set pieces, Semenyo and Kluivert in midfield, Kluivert the penalty taker, Semenyo one of the best players at that price point, and Evan Nilsson up front. I think that you can gain a lot of things from the Bournemouth side if you buy them at the exact right time. And the final game that we're going to discuss was Spurs versus Liverpool. Let's start with Spurs. They scored way more than what I was expecting, and they scored when Liverpool were not thinking about defending. But Spurs are awful defensively. I know that they are playing basically with their reserve squad, but when you play Liverpool with those reserves, you have to be better. Scoring mids were just awful, left the defenders on their own, and that caused them a lot of issues. And they still managed to score a lot of chances. So players like Maris and Kulusevski, Son and Solanke are going to be great FPL options. I'm not going for anyone into the defensive ranks, but the forwards are there and they can keep scoring. Liverpool, on the other hand, almost 6 expected goals. That number is massive. Spurs is supposed to be a top 6 side, and Liverpool away from home managing to build up almost a 6 expected goal ratio without a penalty is just brilliant. Amazing display, and they were changing many styles during the game, waiting for Spurs to attack, then destroying them on the pressure, then controlling the game. Just brilliant. Salah, he's just the GOAT. Nothing to add there more. Just wanted to give a shout out to him. Other people scoring than Salah, that was great, so they were not only reliant on him, but he was involved in 4 of the goals, so I would still say that he was vital. But the defensive performance was bad. Even though with that bad performance, Alisson, Trent and VVG for me are very great players to invest. Alisson, a great goalkeeper. VVG, some teams that are bad defensively are coming their way, especially from set pieces, such as Leicester, West Ham, Manchester United, so VVG can be clinical. And Trent can deliver that ball into the set piece, but can deliver the ball from anywhere onto the field. So yeah, 7 million, brilliant player. Who is just at 7.4? He's a risky pick, but I think with the way they are playing, he is going to be vital. And Salah at 13.5. I shouldn't have listed him at all because he is the only the only must player you should own. Like, he's something like 170 points already from 16 game weeks. That's more than 10 points per week. Massive numbers. Hope you enjoyed those sections. Now let's go see what's the condition of Saka and what we can do to replace him. About the Saka injury, a guy called AFC Stuff, I think he's a reliable Arsenal fan, tweeted that people were reporting it will be 8 weeks. Arteta said it would be several weeks. He said that he will be back before the end of the season, which is expected as this is only a hamstring issue, but that's the bare minimum, and not seeing him until March must hurt. As you can see, I've listed the fixtures below. Ipswich at home, Brentford away, Brighton away, Tottenham at home, Villa at home, Wolves away, City at home, Leicester away, West Ham at home. Basically, they're facing the sides that you want them to face. Ipswich, Brentford, Spurs, Wolves, Leicester, West Ham. The only missing team from here is Southampton. But the absence of Saka is going to be massive. I don't know what's going to happen with Arsenal without him, because in the last couple of games before Crystal Palace, he was the only player that they were looking to pass the ball. But yeah, we should invest some solutions to go for. And now let's go and see some alternative strategies, as I already prepared 3 strategies yesterday. Now I'm going to present to you 3 other strategies, so you can see 6 points of view when deciding what to do with Bukayo Saka. Yesterday I spread the options in budget. Now I'm going to spread them into a different strategy. So the first strategy is to just pivot to another Arsenal player. You're going to waste only 1 transfer here and you can go for someone like Odegaard. They're going to be facing Ipswich, Brentford and Brighton, and those 2 fixtures up next are going to be a very high scoring performance. Odegaard is the obvious and the safest pick. He's at 8.3 million. Basically, you're earning around 2 million from that transfer. Ipswich, Brentford and Brighton, as already mentioned. Martinelli now rises in popularity as most probably he is going to be the direct option to replace Saka on the right wing. He's good on the right wing. He's probably better at the right wing compared to the left one. So at 6.7, his appeal rises. Sterling is confirmed out as well. So I don't see any contention onto that right wing position. And Trossard is another guy that I wanted to mention. Because now if Martinelli is on the right, Trossard is going to be on the left. Unless they decide to play Havertz and then Jesus on the right and Martinelli on the left. So I think Trossard, Martinelli and Odegaard together with Jesus, Havertz and Rice is going to be the way that they're going forward. So either of those three options is going to be good. Probably Odegaard is the best one as he is the pen taker and the set piece taker that is going to replace Saka. This strategy is good when you want to have the Arsenal cover for the next fixtures and for the foreseeable future. Next up, we are going to the safest option that you can go. That is picking a nailed player that is playing in a good side. So some of those players, apart from Odegaard, who is the safest of safest options to go for, is Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes faces Wolves, Newcastle and Liverpool. Not the easiest fixture run, but Bruno has shown in previous seasons that he can deliver against any team and he can score a penalty against any team. Wolves is going to be the easiest game of that run. Liverpool away is going to be very, very difficult if we're looking at the Spurs game compared to Liverpool. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that Fernandes is still an option. Brian Mbeumo facing Brighton, Arsenal and Southampton for the next three fixtures. Apart from Arsenal, which is at home, and Brentford at home are playing well. And he will be playing striker at that game. So I think Brentford may score against Arsenal. Brighton away and Southampton away, probably at the right wing position. But he will have several chances to score there. Gordon is the last player that I'm going to mention here as the safe option. It's the mixed bag of budget. You can go for a cheaper player, of course, like Amat. You can go for Sar. You can go for Iwobi. But I wanted to list some safe options that are basically talismanic players to their team. Gordon is the second talisman into that Newcastle side, scoring almost every game week as of late. Villa, United and Spurs, though, sounds difficult on paper, but apart from Villa, United and Spurs are conceding goals for fun. So I think that this strategy is not bad either. I would say that this strategy is if you want to get starting players for 90 minutes. And that's it for it. The final strategy that I'm going to present to you here is the risk strategy. And it's risky for several reasons. So I've listed players like Maddison, Diaz and Foden, but you can replace Maddison with any Spurs player, Diaz with Diogo Jota and Foden with KDB. Or another risky player. So Maddison, it's risky because his minutes are not nailed and you don't know what Spurs is going to present going forward. Forest away, Wolves away, and Wolves at home and Newcastle at home. A pretty okay fixture, and especially Wolves. The game against Wolves is going to be very interesting to watch. Forest difficult away game, but Newcastle at home can be looked at each side. Diaz at 7.4, Leicester at home, West Ham away and United at home. I think he starts in two of those three fixtures and he comes on as a sub in the third one. And honestly, if I get around 200 minutes from three fixtures from Luis Diaz against those three sides at the moment, I think I'm going to be happy with it. Especially Leicester at home, if he starts and if he continues his form just like he did against Spurs, it would be brilliant. But you can go for Diogo Jota here. He's at similar plays, but I think Diogo Jota plays more like Firmino role, while Diaz will be as the Mane role. If you can compare to the previous Liverpool squad, at the end of the day, I think that when Diaz started with Jota at the beginning of the season, he was just the better player FPL-wise, but Jota is still an option. Finally, Foden, it's risky only because they are not in a good form. Everton, Leicester and West Ham, it cannot get basically easier than that in the next three fixtures. 9.1, you're going to save only 1.2 to 1.4 millions, which is not going to be enough to do a lot of pivoting elsewhere, but still you can go and rely on Foden. If they start scoring, probably Foden is going to be involved. I don't think he's it's risk, but at the end of the day, the form that they're in is just not yet. Yes, he scored already, but yeah, that's the risk. If you opt for KDB, you're then risking more minutes. and then more bad performances. But yeah, I think those are the risky options. And if you cannot get excited by any of the safer ones, I think the risky ones are the way to go this week. So basically, explosive players with minutes form risk. That's the section it's all about. Next on the horizon, I have replacements for Cunha. Again, I've split them in safe options and riskier options. Going now for the safer options, those are players that are starting, those are players that are scoring goals, and those are players that have already proven this season that they're great. Starting with Isaac, as he's the most popular guy in the fantasy right now from the forwards position. Aston Villa at home, United away, and Tottenham away. I don't think that he blanks in any of those weeks. Probably Villa at home he can blank, but against United and Spurs I see him scoring at least 3 goals. So yeah, I think that's the safest and the smartest option to go, especially if you free up some budget from the Saka transfer. Going for Isaac if you don't have him already looks like the way to go. Jackson at 8.3 facing Fulham, Ipswich and Palace. He has been wasteful, but he tends to quickly respond in those kind of situations. At the end of the day, I think that he will be a great option. At 8.3, he's still cheaper than Isaac and can perform pretty well. Chris Wood, one of the top strikers this season. Spurs, Everton and Wolves. He hasn't scored in a while, but in those kind of games, I think he will be vital. And he will be everything you need in a striker. I think he's still on penalties. We haven't seen them take a penalty in a while. But yeah, I don't think that Morgan Gibbs-White went against him. Over him, sorry. But yeah, Spurs conceding, Everton good defensive side, but I think in those kind of games Chris Wood's that cheeky striker that's going to perform, and against Wolves I think he's going to have a field day. But yeah, those are the safe options. Now let's go and see what I've prepared for you with the risky ones. Going into the risky options, you are going to see 3 pretty interesting guys here. Let's start with Mateta. Mateta faces Bournemouth, Southampton and Chelsea. Those 3 sides, especially Bournemouth and Chelsea, no, only Bournemouth and Chelsea can be considered good defensively, but I feel like they lack sometimes presence against a good center forward. Like when they face someone that is more physical and more playing, especially Højsen is not up to par yet with that physicality, and Mateta is that physical guy. Now with Eze out, he's on penalties. So if you're looking for a cheeky replacement for Mateus Cunha, I think that Mateta might be the guy for the job. Then Southampton at home, they are awful against center backs, against the strong strikers. And Chelsea at home, last time around, Palace kept Chelsea quiet third than other teams, not quiet, but I think that they can still perform against Chelsea, especially at home, especially if Sarr and Munoz provide balls to Mateta. I think that Mateta can be a very good forward going forward, and he has fixtures such as Leicester upcoming pretty soon, so you're not risking that much as he's the only striker that they are relying on. Next up is John Duran. He's facing Newcastle, Brighton and Leicester, and that Leicester fixture is going to be a pretty big fixture for Aston Villa, as Rodgers and Duran are going to be pretty popular into that week, in my opinion. Watkins, I don't know what happened with him. Is he still the number 1 option? Is he not? But Duran at 5.8 is going to be a pretty interesting option going forward. He's around the same price as João Pedro, and if he keeps scoring for fun, he will keep bringing points, and it will be happy days when owning him. The final guy here is Gabriel Jesus. As already mentioned, you have several options to go for from the Arsenal replacement options, but at the end of the day you can rely on the guy in the hottest form, and that for sure is Gabriel Jesus. Ipswich, Brentford and Brighton, if he's going to continue in any way to score goals, I think those teams are going to be his victims, and he's going to score a lot of those chances. The only thing you have to consider is that he's on 4 yellow cards and he has a bad temper, so there might be a chance for him to be suspended, but let's not get ahead of ourselves for now. He's injury free and he's going to be available against Ipswich. So write down in the comment section, what do you think about strategies about Saka and Cunha? Do you prefer the risky ones? Do you prefer the safer ones? How are you going to play? It's pretty interesting for me to hear it. Now let's move and see how the fixtures are looking for the upcoming Game Week 18 and analyze them. Looking at the fixtures at Game Week 18, some games stand out for sure. for a lot of goals. We're going to start fixture by fixture and what are my expectations for the game. Manchester City Everton, I suspect 1 or 2-0 victory for Manchester City. I don't think Everton will be able to keep them at bay, but I wouldn't be surprised if the game finishes once again at 0-0, as Everton have been able to keep Arsenal and Chelsea quiet. Then Bournemouth Crystal Palace, I think that those teams are in a particularly similar form. I know Bournemouth is 5th and Palace is like 15th, but that game is unpredictable in my opinion, and I would say that Bournemouth will take it, but it will be a hard-earned victory. Chelsea Fulham, I think it will be a draw. Honestly, 1-1 or 2-2 is my suspicion here. Suspicion here, as Fulham manages to keep those teams away from scoring a lot and manages to return back and score on the counter or with their only chances. But at the end of the day, I think a 2-2 draw is something that will happen. Newcastle, Aston Villa, Newcastle were in a great form, but they faced the bad teams only. On the other hand, Aston Villa just defeated Manchester City and they will want to capitalize on that performance. I still think that Newcastle will prevail, something like 2-1 in favor of Newcastle. Forest and Spurs, I think that Forest are going to beat Spurs. Sadly for Spurs, something like 1-0 or 2-0 victory for Forest in my opinion. At their home ground, they're defeating a lot better teams than Spurs, and I think that Forest are going to keep their top 4 spot. Southampton West Ham, I don't know what to expect from that game with the new manager from Southampton, but I still believe that West Ham are going to prevail for a 2-0 victory. Wolves versus Manchester United, I think here that the game will be pretty equal, as both teams play a similar system and both teams are bad defensively. It will end something like 2-2 or 3-2 to any of those sides. Liverpool-Leicester, I think that's the game where you can earn the most points this season, and I suspect something like a 4-0 victory for Liverpool. You're going to say, how the hell Liverpool scored 6 against Spurs and they are just going to score 4 against Leicester? I think that Liverpool will just stop, in my opinion, so I suspect a 4-0 victory here. Brighton-Brentford, I suspect a Brentford victory away from home, 1-2. As Brentford are always conceding, but Mbumo is going to shine into that game, at least in my opinion. And Arsenal-Ipswich without Saka, I think this game will be way harder for Arsenal, but at the end of the day, I think they will prevail and they will win with a set-piece goal, 1-0 victory and a Gabriel bullet header. Most probably that's going to be the output at the end of the day. But yeah, those are my predictions for the games. I see Liverpool and Leicester and probably Newcastle, Aston Villa as the games where we're going to earn the most points, but let's see at the next week's review. As promised, we're going to revisit the wildcard draft that I did several days ago. It changed slightly, nothing too major, but still we need to discuss those changes and why I made them. Saka, with the injury that is almost confirmed up until March, I think that I would not need the budget basically to integrate him into my squad. That would mean that the most expensive player that I would want to integrate into the team is probably Heung-min Son, and he's 9.8 compared to that 10.6. 5 already. It's going to be way easier to do it, so saving the money right now is not going to be the most ideal option. And at the end of the day, do I really want to save money for Heung-min Son? Probably not. So the next one is Phil Foden, and he's at 9 million, and from 7.6 compared to Maddison to 9.6, it's only 1.5 million, and you can easily save that and do that transfer. So I decided to spend the money and bring the hottest Liverpool defender currently, and that is Trent, because he is magical with that right foot on set pieces, giving balls. I think he's due a goal. He hasn't returned well attackingly this season compared to his numbers, and I think against Leicester he will just open the hell gates and he's going to score a lot of points. I have some flashbacks of the game against Leicester 3 or 4 years ago around Christmas when Trent did a massive 21 pointer. Maybe he will score even more this week, who knows, but I think that if I'm on a wild card, Trent is going to be in it. Gvardiol and Gabriel keep their place, as Gabriel is probably the best defender this year because Arsenal are set-piece merchants and he's always there to provide. And Guardiola with a fixture run from City, you can go with him and rely on those points. As Alisson make wakes for Trent, I'm bringing Sales, for me the best keeper to go for this season. I know that Spurs fixture isn't ideal, but it's only for a week, then fixtures turn for the better, then a little bit for the worse, then again for the better, but Sales proves every week that he can keep a clean sheet against anyone. So yeah, I think that Sales is a great option in Go. You can go for several other options, but I wanted a shout out for Forest defense. Salah and Palmer are non-negotiable at the moment, and I'm not going to discuss them. Ahmad, if on a wild card, I would consider him highly, because you can pivot to a lot of 5.0 to 5.7 midfielders with Ahmad easily, and he is going to continue performing as he is probably the best Manchester United player at the moment. And Maddison could be Luis Diaz, could be Hugh Foden, could be Kulusevski, could be almost anyone here, as this is the risky option in my team. It can be Mbumo, it can be Gordon for a safer one, it can be Bruno Fernandes, but I decided to opt for Maddison just because he's going under the radar so far this season, and wanted to give him a special shout out. Up front, Isaac and Wood are remaining in their places, two safe options. If I'm going for a wildcard now, I want one wildcard option in midfield and one in attack, and Maddison's spot and Mateta's spot are the ones that I'm going to go for. Mateta is not that wild card of a pick because he's on penalties at the moment, and he has one of the best fixture runs going forward. That would mean that not going with Jackson could hurt me, but yeah, we play the game, take some risk. We have the best defense possible, in my opinion. We have the three most important midfielders and two of the most important strikers. Isaac is currently the most important, and Wood is maybe top 4 without shadow of a doubt, and Mateta is just there to have some fun. On the bench, I'm still opting for Castan at 4.2. He's a great bench option, and basically you're spending 8.2 for two bench option defenders, and Dibbling is just here because he is cheap, reliable, and plays in a Southampton side, and is one of the better players of that team. Fabianski, of course, keep his place as the only playing 4.1 keeper. You can even play Fabianski this week against Southampton instead of Sales, and you will be good to go. I hope that this wildcard helps. It helps me look into the perspective for sure. For those that kept this chip so far, great guys. I think that this team is going to move you into the ranks massively. So with a little bit of tweaks, maybe on Maddison and Mateta's spot, I think the others are pretty nailed if I was on a wild card, but you're going to say down in the comment what you think about it. And here we are at the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed that ultimate guide and you like the idea. I will try to do this for every week, as it will prepare you for the week regardless of your team. You can hear some analysis and in 30 to 40 minutes just spend from your day and get all the data that you need. Special shout outs to Pokershitsa, Seth, Foreign, and Zach, the members of the channel. You can become a member to support me financially. You get some perks, but the main idea of that is some financial support. And if you enjoy the content, if you don't want to spend money, it's completely free to go and subscribe to the channel and to like the video and share it with friends, because as the community grows, my exposure grows and my ability to help more and more people grow. So that's what I'm here for. The sub goal is 2000. I don't know if I'm reaching it before the end of the year, but even if I don't, I think it has been a massive year. I started around 500 this year and I'm almost at 2k. The growth has been massive. It can be even faster now with more graphics and with more details brought in. UCL Fantasy will soon return, and that will boost my viewership for sure, as those UCL fantasies just pop off. If you are willing to follow me into both journeys, subscribe, like, join the Discord, join the mini league, everything that you see fit. If you have any questions, ask them. But for now, guys, I'll be heading out. Bye.